Hello, viewership, and welcome. The sword of truth cleaving into your life, just as the sword of broadcasting and the sword of Stronghold, the definitive edition, blazes across your streams. I am the Bard.
And I'm the Doctor.
Is that good enough, Doctor? Was that a good, emphatic introduction?
Yeah, I mean, I slightly lost track of the metaphor of what was exactly blazing across where, but it sounded impressive, I'll give you that.
There was a sword, there was a stronghold, there was flames. What do you want from me?
Yeah, fair. First blood against the wolf.
And it's like army of swordsmen, apparently.
Yeah. So yeah, weirdly, we took kind of Glamorgan here, but then the pig took that back, but now we're just going straight for Pembroke and Carmarthenshire directly, so there we go.
This is complicated.
Yeah. In some ways, right. It kind of reminds me of Dark Crusade, but also not. Partly because we have no choice in this. This is just a completely linear thing.
Yeah.
But, it's nice to have the idea that your missions are part of a kind of campaign, even though in this sense, it's not like Dark Crusade. It's not like we can choose. It's not like these lands are meaningfully different. We are just doing a series of linear missions, but...
I would kind of like if there was a blend, almost a choose-your-own-adventure thing, right?
Yeah.
If you chose option A in, mission 1, then you get option D in mission 7.
Oh yeah, the pig has also not only taken one of our counties, but he's also slit Lord Woolsack.
Oh!
Who's been talked to that. He's
Screen!
just been murdered, yeah.
Oh, what a bastard!
Yeah, it kind of comes out of nowhere.
To be fair, the good writing is,
and now he goes into
make
detail.
us hate the villain.
I pull out teeth.
Pull out teeth? Oh.
Most fun I have for a long time. How did you do? Did you hunt down your prey?
One of my favourite things about this definitive edition is they got back all of the original voice actors to re-record all the lines.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
That's pretty
and they
cool,
sound
actually.
much better.
I mean, obviously they've had years to improve their craft, right?
But also, it's been 20 years. Can you imagine the same guy now being like, no, pig, not die, after all those years? Oh, this is the one we were talking about earlier. This is the King's Ransom.
Oh, there we go. Oh!
We have literally got to raise a King's Ransom in the fertile lands of South Wales.
As we've discussed, that's incredibly difficult, because a King's Ransom is like a kingdom's GDP for a year, minimally.
Hence, we are taking the snake's GDP. We're going to launch a surprise attack so we can take his gold for ourselves. We've sent along some tunnelers to help you take the castle.
Oh, I love talking about tunnelers. Just let me know what you want me to unleash about tunnelers, Doctor.
So here are the tunnelers.
Good. There's some macemen, some of them.
Dig in.
That's a pretty heavily armed force you've got there. Do we not get to make a...
Nope. So this is a siege mission, so we have no ability to build at all. We just have
Wow.
these men, and that is it.
Wow!
Because you've not done a siege before. This is the castle. Our goal is to take the castle, so we need to get troops on top of there and kill most enemy units.
That feels difficult.
Yes. So, this again, as I say, this is the problem with a combined arms force, is just getting everyone into the right positions. So I want to move the crossbowmen and the archers forward first, because I need them to take the hits for the tunnelers. The tunnelers we're going to send in ideally one by one, basically, and actually target it. Tunnelers are quite hard to use. You have to tell them to dig a tunnel, and you tell them where to go in. When you tell them to dig a tunnel, they dig it basically in a straight line. They're vulnerable at this point when they're actually digging in, and that's what I wanted the cover for. We've lost one. Hopefully one of them will make it in. Shit.
And if not, we're fucked.
Nope, we are fucked. Right, we need to try, let's try a bit further back. Not happy with that, but there we go. Once they start digging, they will tunnel towards the nearest fortification and undermine it.
To be fair, the crossbows are standing up okay. They're doing some damage to the guys on the walls, but they're dying moderately fast.
Yeah, no, we've lost all our range capability now. Shit. Right.
Yes, my lordship.
Oh, have you not heard the voice acting on the macemen before? Yeah. They're just orcs. They are just orcs.
I mean, there is an option. You could just rush the gate, which, you don't need me to tell you how bad that idea that is. Are those tunnelmen?
No, those are macemen. And I'm hoping they'll provide enough of a distraction that we can hopefully get some tunnelers in. I'm actually going to pull some of the macemen out.
So
I actually want them to
there is-
spread across there, yeah.
There is definitely a historical precedent for tunneling into a fortress.
Oh yeah, definitely. So worth noting, the purpose of the tunneling is not to create a tunnel for me to get in by.
Oh,
it's
dear.
to undermine foundations so that it's a
Oh,
very
yeah.
quick way of destroying a wall or something like that.
So, like, that's why they used it historically, though, was like,
Yeah.
this was not a means of actually, like, breaking into a fortress. It was like, you tunneled under the walls, like,
Yep.
you put up, like, struts, basically, and then you burned the struts on the way
Yeah,
out.
that's exactly what the tunnelers in this do, yes. And it's obviously a particularly dangerous maneuver.
Oh, yeah.
One of the
I'm
things I
pretty
like
sure-
about Macemen is Macemen can do a surprising amount of damage to structures. Nope, we've actually almost chipped this tower away. Shouldn't
just do
work,
it.
but it does. They are, for their cost, they are the best unit, I believe.
Bang for your buck.
Yes.
Well,
so now we just head straight
they
up,
have broken the gatehouse.
and then they can
okay.
just fucking run in, slaughter these guys, and then we just go from there. Easy. Tunnelers are difficult to use well.
I see that. There's a
It's just, if they've got any kind of range capability, it'll just be lost on... They'll just destroy the tunnelers.
I believe, I'll say, I've got two things to say here, historically speaking. So I've got, like, one really cool story about crossbows that relates to a character in history we talked about.
Yep.
And I've got another story about tunnelers, and there was a counter tunnel in history that was dug, which is really cool.
Both of those sound great. I believe the remainder of this mission is just, now you've taken over the Snake's Fortress, use it to make money, to raise the King's ransom. So... Oh, he's got a lady. Oh, are we going to kill the lady? I don't feel great.
Oh, we shoot. Oh, that feels a bit bad.
No, let's... I mean, there also
we
isn't a lord in this castle, because the Snake is the lord, so I think we just need to kill the last unit.
Can we convert her or something?
Well, I mean, she'll be replaced with Our Lady.
That feels a bit...
Our Lady of Stronghold.
In any case, like, do you want to hear the crossbow story first off,
Yeah,
sir?
absolutely.
So, like, do you know how Richard the Lionheart died?
No, actually.
Turns out crossbows were involved. So Richard the Lionheart he comes back from Crusade and discovers that his younger brother Prince John has basically sold off a bunch of his land to the King of France, Philip Augustus, who to all intents and purposes is a much better king than Richard is, or as John will turn out to be, right?
I mean,
So,
that's not a high bar for John, but for Richard, perhaps a little surprising.
Richard the Lionheart is not a good king. Like,
I suppose, yeah, he's a good tactician and whatnot. But
yeah,
yes.
exactly. He's an exceptional soldier. So, like, even as early as like the Victorian era, they're recognizing that this is a very, very talented man in exactly one area, but
Yeah.
but not a good king. Like, he's almost like he's engineered to be good at siege warfare. Within his lifetime, he launches 2 amphibious invasions of both. I want to say
Infamously, the most difficult way of attacking anything ever.
Oh, it is like conventional military wisdom. Like as late as like the 20th century is like you never attack amphibiously. Like it's a silly way to take anything. Like it's very difficult to establish a beach hold. There are coastal defenses. Like the enemy inevitably has the high ground because like sea level is sea level, and anything like that is not sea level is higher than you, so it's hard to attack. It's like amphibious invasions almost inevitably fail, but over his military career, Richard wins 2 amphibious assaults. Which, when you're guys fighting in not plate armor, they'd be in chainmail and great helmets, but like
Even so, don't make it any easier.
no, exactly. When you're guys fighting in heavy armor, like that's incredible. It's like he's very good at exactly one thing, which is fighting battles and winning sieges. But I think we really distracted. Anyway, towards the very end of his life, Prince John signs off a whole bunch of his land to Philip Augustus, and Richard spends the latter half of his kingship, so his late 30s basically, picking off and trying to re-establish control over French castles that were nominally his, but John has signed away.
Yeah.
So one of these is like a rebel lord in France or England. I forget exactly where it is, but like Richard is like a frontline guy. He always, not always, but like he often leads from the front. Like
Yeah,
he is
makes
someone
sense,
who wants.
the kind of person he is. Yep.
He's known as the Lionheart for a reason. So he's swinging a sword.
That's not a name you learn from being a pencil pusher. Yeah.
But this is the
I learn,
thing,
I
like,
learn.
we don't get this in modern military history. It's like these guys were actually on the front line sometimes, like literally nose to nose with the enemy.
I guess again that's something which I suppose it feeds into the whole dulce et decorum est thing of that's the thing that kind of died with the First World War, is the idea of generals leading from the front.
Well, you talk about the First World War, but like both Churchill, who was the Minister of War, and George V, I want to say George IV, like both wanted to lead troops in combat.
I mean, Churchill did lead troops at Gallipoli, and we've talked before about Gallipoli.
No. It's like so after Gallipoli, Churchill signed. After Gallipoli, Churchill enlists as an officer to redeem himself because Gallipoli is such a massive strategic failure.
Understatement of the year.
Well,
you cannot overstate how much of a fuck up Gallipoli was, but yeah, we've talked about that already.
Yeah,
yes.
we're hearing a military show viewership like. In the Middle Ages, go and look up Gallipoli in your own time. But like it's not uncommon right up into the modern era that some leaders would lead their men directly on the front lines in combat, and Richard is a massive proponent of this. So there is a siege he's fighting where like it's an inevitability he's going to win. Like the castle is encircled. All he's got to do is actually wait long enough until the like supplies give out. But Richard, being Richard, decides he wants to go out and like practice his crossbow marksmanship. So. I know, right? So, I know, right? So there's a wonderful story, like, he doesn't even wear armor, so he goes out, like, in his shirt, basically, and there's like, a servant who's carrying a shield, like, a massive, like, great shield. Then Richard is dodging behind, and Richard's, like, loading his crossbow, like, taking a pot shot at the walls, reloading the crossbow, firing again. And there's a 1 in a million shot. There's a young boy who allegedly is as young as like 14 from the walls.
So just kills him with a Hail Mary.
Yeah, he just fires a Hail Mary shot, hits Richard in the shoulder. Richard takes one look at it and goes, shit.
Yeah,
because again, this is a man who's been like fighting pitched battles and sieges since he was like 15, and he takes one look at like the crossbow bolt that's stuck in his shoulder and goes, "Oh no,
not good." Yeah,
this is the end, basically.
Well, this is the thing, like. Traumatic injury aside, like someone like Richard the Lionheart will have known that most of the time people die from infection.
Well, that's exactly how he died.
Yeah.
So, like, he looks at it, and, like, his priest, which is the closest thing he has to a doctor, tells him, like, rest, you know, like, we can still put pungents and oils and poultices in the wound, you never know. Richard knows this is bullshit, so, like, there's a really good line in, like, the Chronicle that says that he turns to Venus, which is broadly interpreted as like he goes on a 2D orgy because like he recognizes that like he's done basically. So like he's got a bunch of boys and girls and like pretty people that are following his camp. So he spends 2 days shacked up in his tent, slowly getting blood poisoning from the crossbow bolt that's lodged in his shoulder, and after 2 days he expires.
Yeah, I mean it's circling back to what we said earlier, but basically most people in that age die from infection or something like dysentery, realistically.
There is a nice story around it. So apparently on his deathbed, Richard was like, you know what? The boy who fired the shot, kill everyone else in the garrison, spare the boy, because that was a great shot. There is an unfortunate contradictory story. So he had a bunch of mercenaries that were part of his company, because again, it's impractical to keep levies in the field for a long time, and like they're not very reliable, blah blah blah.
You need to go and tend your people's farms.
Exactly, like we spoke about this great length on this very show, but like apparently there's a bunch of mercenaries who are part of his company. When the boy leaves the siege, Richard actually bequeaths him a bunch of money, but like immediately the mercenaries set on him and like skin him alive, which is horrible. We don't know if it happened. Like we do know that because Richard was a monarch, so basically every living, breathing moment of his life is documented. But like we know that he said that don't harm the boy, I'm going to bequeath him this money, blah 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 blah. But unfortunately, when the boy leaves the fortress, mercenaries set up on him and skin him alive, supposedly, which is not great.
Yeah,
but it does. All of this speaks to the absolute punishing power and range of the crossbow.
Yeah, absolutely. That he could. Well, I mean, it was always the thing that was one of the reasons why even like the longbow was considered a dick move, was the fact that. I mean, there's the whole line about fucking Boromir where it's like the mightiest soldier can be laid low by a single arrow, and Boromir was pierced by many.
There's a very thing that like this is very Richard the Lionheart, because like there's a really good line from one of the contemporaneous accounts where it's like, oh, the lion was laid low by the gnat. Right, because like he's great. The Lion of Europe. He's like Europe's premier warrior, feudal crusader king. But like, a lucky shot from a crossbow kills him because, like, let's face it, he's showing off. Like, he doesn't need to be out there firing a crossbow. He,
unsurprisingly, is one of the playable characters in Stronghold Crusader.
Is he really?
Yep. Basically, you can play as a number of characters from either... You can either be Crusader or you can be Arab background. But obviously the leaders on both sides is either Richard the Lionheart or Saladin.
Salah al-Din, yeah.
Correct. Same route as Aladdin in Arabic. That's where Aladdin, the story comes from.
Do you? Really? That's incredible. Because like,
well, the name, is the same origin.
Oh, okay.
He's also the reason why... Have you seen, physically, what the Great Pyramid of Giza looks like?
Yes.
You know how it's like steps of blocks, and then the very top of it is like a smooth capstone?
Yep, leveled off. That was Saladin.
Yep, well, it was all smooth until he was like, I want to reinforce the citadel in Cairo, and just stripped the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, because he was... the Islamic world at this time is extremely politically complicated, so there are caliphs who are like religious leaders...
The caliph is also a unit in. He's a leader in Stronghold Crusader.
But like,
the caliph, the emir, the wazir, they're all there.
But it's incredibly complicated because like a caliph in the Arab world is like sort of a combination between a pope and a king.
Yeah.
Like, they are simultaneously like a theological and a feudal leader.
Yeah. Well, that's why, a lot of like...
But a sultan is basically synonymous with a king, and Saladin is a sultan.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's a guy who rises from almost nothing. He's a very minor nobleman who eventually becomes Sultan of Egypt and then sweeps across the Arab world into the Middle East, into Syria, into Egypt. Like he's a very, very potent warlord.
Yeah.
But like the West knows him primarily as like the guy who fought against the Crusaders. But
yeah.
They've calculated that Saladin spends about 55 months of his life on campaign, basically. But of those 55 months, he spends about 44 of them fighting other Arabic Muslim warlords.
Yeah,
but yet the West remembers him. Oh, he was the guy who fought Richard the Lionheart.
Crusaders, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, yeah, he did, but like for about maybe a quarter of the total time he spent fighting anybody.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing. Oh, so he was like the great military rival of Richard the Lionheart.
And he never met in the field of battle ever.
They never met at all. So like bizarrely, Richard leads an army on crusade in the late 12th century, so like very, very late in Richard's life, so like maybe the 1190s, I think.
Do you want to cut across you briefly to show the annoyingness of siege warfare?
They killed all your farmers.
We cannot man our farms, we have no wood because all of our woodcutters are out and about, and because there are enemies marauding, we have to have our gates closed. We are struggling really badly. Our popularity is struggling because we have 46 peasants to 20 capacity because our hovels have been destroyed, so we have minus 10 from crowding. We are really struggling because we are being besieged.
Which is how
like,
siege
there's 6 macemen out
works.
here. Like, we should be able to fight them, but the fact that like, the snake is really annoying in this level because he just gives you a constant low-level menace. But it means, like, yeah, we've got a tiny amount of... We've got 1 month's supply of food left. Like, they are choking us out, which is exactly how siege warfare works. And he's just... The snake throws you little and often here. It's really annoying. This should finally now open the gates. But it's going to take a while because we're out of... We've got a bit of flour left, but we're out of grain. We're out of cheese. There are no farms for any of those because the farms have been destroyed. And we've got no wood, so we can't even start rebuilding these things. Our goal in this mission is to build up gold, but I'm actually going to have to spend my gold now to basically bribe people to get our popularity back up.
It'll be fine, Doctor. I trust you to win the game.
This is going to be an awkward one.
Hey, and if not, we can talk about Saladin and Richard the
Definitely, yes. Okay, right, we're positive again now. The food problem has briefly gone away, and we've got booze at least, so at least everyone's drunk. That's
hey! Hey, I mean, like, I'm pretty drunk.
Yeah. Oh, fuck off, the snake's troops are attacking.
Do you want my... Oh, the snake.
He's
the snake's
still attacking again. He's fucking
You've got a lot of crossbows. They'll bring him down.
The annoying thing is just whenever he attacks, the gates close and and they destroy all our stuff outside, and like that's the problem. Like we've lost our iron mines, we've lost our quarries. It's just he's very fucking annoying in that way.
This is how siege warfare does.
Yeah,
work,
and
though.
like kudos to this game to getting it well, but it's also fucking annoying because it gets it well.
Do you know who? As we talked about, the master of siege warfare, Richard the Lionheart, just killing it.
Yes,
Sorry, Doctor. Do you want to know like another weird fact about him? So like he is very much like where were we up to? Like what year are we in? 1184?
Yeah.
He's definitely alive. This is very much the era he was active in. It's 1184. What people don't mention about him is like he rose twice in rebellion against his own father to try and claim the kingship of either or the Duchy of Aquitaine, Normandy, and alternately the King of England. Like he was a very big rebel within his life.
How old was he when he was enthroned as English?
Oh, like he was very, very late in his life. I think he was in his late 30s. He dies. He dies like 44.
Yeah, like he was.
But he's not.
Yeah. It was surprisingly late on. I know.
It's like he was a very like
it was just it was more of a hey, this is probably worth the stab, the English throne, rather than I am born for this role in this particularly. It's more I'm born to rule and I'm not particularly fussed about
that's bit.
Oh, these pricks! Right, mace men are really annoying as well because they go for the siege stuff. So they are going here to specifically destroy my woodcutter.
What a dick! Oh, your woodcutter! Look at your woodcutter, like valiantly swinging the axe.
Yep. And then I can't make wood, and it just gets much more annoying. Ugh, it's good, it makes sense, but it's fucking irritating.
Do you want to know my low-key fact about Richard the Lionheart Doctor?
Go on.
So do you know he may have been a member of the bisexual master race? So it is speculated that there's a line in a chronicle that says that he got in bed with the French king. And we know that when he and Philip Augustus, when they were on crusade in the Holy Land, they literally shared a tent. So when they were besieging Jerusalem, and like, well, they never got as far as Jerusalem. Sorry, I take that back. When they were besieging, I want to say it's Acre. Anyway, there's another city in the Holy Land where they're besieging. They actually did sleep in the same tent. And you think, is this literal? Were they actually in bed together, or is the monk who wrote the chronicle being metaphorical? Well, and we just don't know.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. But by the same token, Richard has no offspring, so like he's married.
He never married.
No, he did marry.
Classic.
He's married to like a beautiful like Spanish princess that he never consummates with, as far as we know. Like he kind of brings her along for a bit, but then he sends her back to Spain, and like they never seemingly produce an heir. And he was also briefly engaged to Philip Augustus, like the man who was allegedly, possibly his lover. He was engaged to Philip Augustus' sister and puts her off for years and years and years and never actually gets married, and then cancels the marriage and gets engaged to this random Aragonian Spanish princess, but like they never consummate the marriage. He never produces any offspring. Like there's not even any illegitimates, there's no bastards, and you think, did this guy actually like women? Was he what?
Did he fuck?
Like was he one of these guys who like he was a military man for the entirety of his adult life? He was just constantly around men, and you think he obviously, like Richard the Lionheart, would not have even understood the term bisexual, but by the same token, there's a strong argument to be made that like this was a dude who didn't like sleeping with girls.
Yeah, classic. He never married. Yes.
Yeah. And like, one of your duties as a kind of medieval monarch is to ensure the line of succession, and if you're not producing heirs, you're kind of failing your duty to your kingdom.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, I guess to some extent he will have just been like, oh, well, the duty to the kingdom is all about
conquest,
and that is it.
And he did it exceptionally well in that regard, like forcing Saladin into a stalemate. Very tragically, so like 2 years after, or less than 2 years after Richard leaves the Holy Land, so he gets within literal sight of Jerusalem, he marches a large army to within, you can see the walls and the towers of Jerusalem, and he decides, or his commanders decide for him, that like, we can't take it, they're too well defended, we've got to turn back, and they turn back to like the cities that he has captured in the Holy Land, and he goes back home to England, eventually, but like, less than 18 months after he departs the Holy Land, Saladin dies. And like the Arab world falls to infighting. And you think, if he had just held on, Could he have
Saladin
made
as
it?
well also basically just died to infection or something like that as well.
I think Saladin had like a bunch of illnesses throughout his life. So like there's an incident in his late adulthood. I think he's like kind of middle age. I think Saladin is like in his late 30s, early 40s, and he gets like a horrible case of what we think to be dysentery or maybe some kind of horrible digestive nastiness, and he overcomes it, and it reaffirms his faith in Islam. So like in his early reign, there's nothing to suggest that like Saladin is massively committed to the cause of Islam. But then later in his life, after this illness, he's like, no, God, like Allah has saved me to like for a specific purpose. Like I am the guy who's going to triumph.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he does. Although Saladin wins about as many battles as he loses, but like this is the thing about medieval warlords. Like it's not about winning consistently. It's about like living to fight again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Unless you're Richard, in which case I think Richard wins almost every battle he ever fights.
Yeah, it's alright for some. But obviously, but dice rolling. Like some people just constantly roll.
But this is the thing, like Richard basically is bioengineered to win siege battles, and that's the only thing he's good at. He's a terrible administrator, terrible like husband, terrible king, but like really good at exactly one kind of warfare.
Yeah.
You know that way, like I think we talked about this on the channel before. Like there might have been someone born in like 1066 who would have been an amazing, like they had exactly the kind of mind that would make them an incredible like electronic engineer. But like they were born a million years before electronic engineering was going to like even hit its peak.
Yeah, it's always the thing of like, it's a quote from, I can't remember who the quote is from, but it's just a general quote about like, I care less about the specific convolutions of Einstein's brains, about wondering how many people had the same brain as Einstein who lived and died in a field somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And like Richard is one of these people that like he was born into the exact time and era that demanded that he be good at one thing, and he was really, really good at that one thing. I see, Doctor, you're pursuing an aggressive strategy of
I've got to be at this point because like the huge risk in this level, I'm only kind of now starting to properly handle that, is being besieged.
Welcome to scarcity of resources.
But now like we're in an issue of like everything is so slow because we've got so few peasants. And I'm just like I can't. Despite having, like we've got no one available because we haven't got the hovels. We're at full population capacity because these pricks have been destroying our hovels.
Build more hovels.
I guess. Yeah. Well, I can't because I haven't got wood, and I need to wait for these guys to very slowly bring wood back to my stockpile before I can build hovels again. So it's a very slow process.
Well, take your time because this is genuinely the reality of siege warfare. This is how it goes. Yeah. And I like that you're building now the hovels on the far side of the tower, which is kind of cool.
That's the thing, it forces you to deal with that. But I'm very much like positioning all my troops basically out of the place to counter where they're first going to appear. I mean, these ladder men just get fucking blended, because of course they do. But equally, you can see most of my macemen are on pretty low health now at this point, because as you're saying, men get tired.
There's a really good historical...
Now we've actually lost them now, which is...
Oh dear. Keep the crossbows on the walls, Doctor! What are you doing?
No! Genuinely, it's better to be out here, because then this way they can't close our gates. If they're near you, gates automatically close. And then they'll just start smashing everything that's outside the gates. That's the thing, whereas now at least we are starting to build stuff back a little bit.
I leave it to your superior knowledge to do that.
Yeah, like this is the problem of like...
raiding. We talked about this earlier on, and like I keep calling it a podcast, but it's not because I feel like it is a podcast. I'm ranting.
It kind of is a podcast. Let's be honest. Yeah.
Tell us in the comments, viewership. Honestly, are you enjoying the historical content? Because I worry that I'm ranting and just giving you like a history lecture while the Doctor plays a game, and like we feel this is kind of good content and intersecting nicely, but like you can tell us better than we will ever imagine. So, in the comments, what are you enjoying? Is it gameplay? Is it commentary? Is it historical rambling? Tell us.
I'm actually going to restart this mission because I think I'm just on the back foot, and there's no use in continuing that same way.
That's okay, Doctor. I think we can. I think we can still do pretty well.
Yep. So I'm just going to start again from the start.